Say that again?
Maybe better light up here.
Do you want me to go up and check?
Sure.
Okay. This looks a little theater-ish because it's, you know, like flat and up on the up. This looks like the old Globe. Look at us. We're gonna create a theater if it kills us. Okay. Oh my God, Andy, it's a theater. It's a theater in the round. Where is the... It's available. There's no artists here. This is weird. This is like a Greek amphitheater. Andy, we found...
You need to book it?
We need to get the booker. This is so strange. I think we landed in paradise.
Yeah, that's the thing about this park. It's full of surprises, right?
Bonkers. Well, I definitely think the miracle we were looking for happened. Hi, I'm sitting down in Central Park. Can you believe this beautiful, we found this beautiful kind of a Greek amphitheater that was waiting for us. We just didn't know it, and no one booked it. So I'm here to talk with my really good friend, Andy Ezrin. Andy Ezrin is a very accomplished, sort of renowned jazz musician in New York City. I always think of him as the guy who's never available because I fell in love with him about 10 years ago, and then he was on the road with Chris Botti forever, and my concert career started getting rolling, and he was on the road, so I wished him well, and I always went to Chris Botti's concerts, didn't I, on New Year's Eve? And so that was amazing, and now he tours with Madeleine, Peyroux, and so many great artists. And I was able in this pandemic to find a silver lining, which was that I was thinking about jazz, and I was thinking about how jazz artists are responding to the pandemic, and I thought, well, for once he's in town, and I'll give him a call. So I hope you enjoy my conversation with the great jazz musician and a good friend of mine, Andy Ezrin. Yeah, let's give it a whirl. Come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. Take a look and you'll see into your imagination. We'll begin with a spin, traveling in the world of my creation. What we'll see will defy explanation. If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want to do it. Want to change the world, there's nothing to it. There is no life I know to compare with pure imagination. Living there, you'll be free if you truly wish to be.
want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want to do it. Want to change the world. There's nothing to it. There is no life I know to compare with pure imagination. Living there, you'll be free if you truly wish to be.
Yeah, not bad.
Hey, and the birds are finishing.
The birds
it for
are
us,
the birds
you know?
are accompanying us. I love
All right.
that. I love that.
Hi, Andy.
Hi, how are you?
I'm really good. I'm really good. Here we are in the middle of the park.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons we're in the park is because it's not even that easy to solve the conundrum of how we're going to make music together.
It's a whole new world.
It's a whole new
Brave
world.
new world.
And are all the jazz musicians that you know taking to the new world? You know?
I think it runs the gamut. I think some are just sort of like throwing their hands up in the air, and some have sort of in a way embraced it, or they've grown into this whole world of live streaming. And I think part of the live streaming thing is that, I think we might have talked about this, is that it's kind of a need to express ourselves, that we're grateful to have the gift to be able to do this and to share our gifts to people. And I think I did a bunch of live streams on my own, just turning Facebook Live on.
I know. Oh, we have to talk about your Facebook stuff. It was I found it really effective, but we'll go back. So,
and it was interesting to see, because all of a sudden, in terms of, Facebook is this thing where everything looks a lot more glamorous, but everybody knew that everybody was home doing these things. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting how people's styles, there was one guy that gets on, morning jam, and they're just free-forming it. And I sort of treated mine as an opportunity to do an actual concert. I didn't speak much, but I had all this music that I'd been writing, and even during the pandemic, and I thought, you know what, why not share this with all my friends and everything. And I found that people really needed that. Some people were more savvy with recording at home and sending files, and they'd already sort of done this before the pandemic, so they were used to that. I have one friend who has done a ton of that stuff and is really a great musician, great keyboard player, and he said to me, I don't really feel like playing. And I said, that's fine. Don't beat yourself up over it. And he ended up doing these amazing interviews, just like you're doing, with all these like jazz and pop, these New York musician luminaries, talking about like the old days of the heyday of recording and everything. So those were amazing.
Like just a chance to get information out there and
it's
share.
what he did his homework, and he really, that's what he wanted to do. And I think that's maybe one of the lessons, is that everybody's gonna treat this experience, it's gonna mean something different for them. And for me, I ended up writing a ton. I don't know why, and I've been kind of using that because a lot of times I'm just not around in one place to do that.
Right.
So it forces you to do that.
Yeah. I've spoken now to people who are used to dealing with children singing together in classrooms. So of course their art form is out the window. Or if someone is, an opera singer, they're used to using their breath, no microphones, huge amount of exhaling. It's all respiration. It's all live, and they don't really feel like they can sing a Facebook concert. It just doesn't hold their hearts. Do you find that what you do, the sociability of jazz, the kind of playing as a group improv, is Is that possible on Zoom, or is that on hold for now?
They haven't, technologically, they haven't gotten it. That was the first thing that all of our friends tried to get together. There was a thing called Jam Kazam and this other thing, and we tried it. And because people's internet speeds are varied, I think there might be a program out there, but it's not widely known. It's certainly not Zoom.
Ethernet cables will help, but Jam Kazam.
Yeah, it helps, but what you're saying about the opera scene and performers such as ourselves is it's really difficult, because not only are you putting all this energy out, when you're in a concert, we know this, we're getting energy constantly coming back in real time.
Right, it's not just you and me that we're...
It's us and these
and
people,
the audience.
It's a shared experience,
Yeah,
and you just...
It's a web of vibe,
Yeah,
right?
a web
Yeah.
of vibe. And I'm going to write that down. That could be a tune. I think that for me, the saving grace, this has been a saving grace because I've always viewed music as an escape. And it's a place that I can escape to. It's something that I feel like I have, that a lot of people don't have in this pandemic. And it's something that I can share with people, but it's something I can do for myself. I used to play these little gigs in Boston years and years ago. Nobody was listening. And I said, if I'm going to continue to do this and not go insane, I need to challenge myself and come up with, things I'm going to do if I'm stuck in the corner somewhere in a restaurant or whatever, and play for myself and do it to learn and grow. And if I'm not doing that, I'm going to want to jump out a window. So this is really, for me, trying to find a way to express yourself. And when I was doing live stream stuff, there was a week and a half where I just kind of was lazy, or I didn't feel like doing it, and all I did was just watch the news and didn't practice, and I felt terrible because I wasn't really giving to myself, or I wasn't coming up with something that kept my mind and my heart occupied. But it's like almost like the equivalent of like, when you I send a file to you and you sing on it. It's like, remember when you took a photo, and I was telling my kids, now you just see it, but before you had to go to like the pharmacy and wait a week, and then it's nothing in real time. It's really like a step away. So, and when we play on things, we're trying to recreate that vibe you're talking about of being in the same room. There's no denying the convenience and the expense and if you people make records like that. I'm making music like that all the time. It's not as much fun as going to a place and seeing all your friends and hanging out and just getting a vibe and just working on some music together and feeling things out together and then pressing record. You can't, it's very difficult now to recreate that, but we have to try. I
had to do my Sondheim record because of money in 2 nights.
Wow.
And there was one day where we almost did the whole record, and I did 76 tapes.
Oh my God.
And Rob Mathis is like, I've never seen anyone sing that long in their life.
Yeah, I mean,
but
what about your...
No, my voice
instrument?
was actually kind of okay. I mean, I was a little fried by the end, but not...
But you're a bit of a warrior, I think. I always think of that.
I don't know. Thank you. But I mean, we wanted a record that felt like we were all in the room together. But in order financially to do it, I had to sing my entire Sondheim album in 2 days, and we just pushed through one day and got like 11 songs out of 15.
It's like making a jazz record. You got to do it in 2, and there's something to that in the immediacy of that. I did 10 records, so it was 50 songs, and we were getting paid by the song. It took 2.5 days. And I think
50 songs in 2.5 days?
I'm trying to think, and it was just like me and a drummer and the bass player who did all the arrangements, and it was like, okay, let's get the form, roll the tape, and play. And I didn't even know what I was playing, but actually there's some pretty good stuff on there. Probably not all of it, but after the 3rd day of like recording, I think I recorded 17 tunes that day or something. After a night, I walked out, and the studio was in Soho, and I saw somebody that I knew, and they were like, Andy, and I couldn't even talk. I was just like, oh yeah. But it's just,
I know.
It was about to explode. But there's something about...
I was so fried. Children will listen. I never got it.
God.
I was dead. I couldn't. I mean, I think they were...
But something else kicks in, right? I mean...
Well, for most of the songs, except there was just one song. I had nothing left for children will listen.
It's a
And
lot. Yeah.
I sound like, and we kept
Well,
it
your
on, but it's
instrument,
not
yeah.
my best
It's easy to
performance.
sit here and do this, but your instrument's a part of it.
I overshot it, but I felt I had to because we were looking for the album, and wasn't like I could go back another time. We had no tracking, right? And if
I'm sure a lot of it came out great, and
Yeah.
the fact that something else kicks in where you're in kind of that, you said you just sort of push through, you're in that sort of mode, you don't have time to overthink these little tiny things with,
Well, yeah.
which
There's
can
like
be a
two
good
songs
thing.
in there that are gold for me. Goodbye
Yeah.
for Now and Children in Art, where I just got into some free association emotionally, and it was a kind of jazz, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Actually, it's like emotional jazz in a way. Now I know you're working a lot right now. You're starting to get work. I mean,
Yeah.
you've gotten out there a little bit. What is it like to, let's say, rehearse, and what is it like on stage?
Right, so I have a friend who's got a studio up the street, and so when we got into the studio, there might have been 15 of us. Everybody's very careful. We all wear masks at all times, except the wind players, and horn players can't wear masks, but they separated everybody, and they took our temperature, and
They took your temperature, okay.
they took our temperature when you go in with the temporal thermometer, and everybody's just super careful. And it was strange, but it's funny. This whole thing with the mask, nobody wants to wear them. We need to wear them, but you found a way to kind of work around it. Like the keyboard was still there, the music was still there. I think everything probably takes a little bit more time to set up, and there's, like you said, there's like when we were talking about today, how are we going to do this, where are we going to do it, that you can really create something nice in a shared space. I guess you'd need enough space and less people to make it, and the outdoor thing.
You haven't done that yet?
No.
You haven't performed yet for small group?
The only thing I've done is a live stream at Smalls Jazz Club, and it was just us, and it was just broadcast.
There was a singer?
No, there was not a singer. It was just a jazz combo. His friend asked me to do it.
All
And
masks?
Yes, we did wear masks, and I found
But
that
they were horn players, no?
the horn players can't wear the masks.
Right.
But they're far enough away from each other that I think it's okay. I felt, on that gig, I felt more encumbered by the masks than I did sort of reading music, because but this one I kind of want to let loose, so the mask felt a little...
Interesting.
It felt a little, and I wanted to take it off, but then I thought, gee, I was farther enough away because the distance, the piano and everything, but then I thought, this might not look so good.
Oh,
So I kept it on.
But interesting. So once you started the free flow of energy, your instinct was, I'd like to take this off now.
Yeah, you want to kind of, it's like you're letting loose. It's hard to let loose with this thing on. But again, I was so grateful. I texted the guy who got me on the gig, whose show it was, and I said, you really just did me, like, this was like medicine for my soul. I needed to do this. And just even interacting with, and a lot of musicians, we all want the validation, not just from people, but by musicians that are in the know. We want to not impress them, but I guess we want their validation as much as anything. So to be in a room with, 4 other people that I really respect, and we're getting to play, it was like a blast.
The interreflection of your peers really mattered to you. The kind of
Yes.
impressing each other and stuff had a value in itself, which it always does in jazz, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't there always a kind of like, ooh, that felt good, ooh,
Yeah.
right?
We call them woos.
Those are called woos.
They're called woos. Woo!
Woo! So those have at this point, those have to, maybe those are more weighted because we don't have an audience. So you need, if you're going to
Yeah.
get 4 guys, at least you got the woos, right?
The worst thing is we call it you don't want to self-woo. You don't want to play something hip and go, woo!
Yeah.
You never self-woo, but you can woo others. The weird thing was that it was generated by, normally you meet somebody on a gig or something, and this was completely backwards. This was, we started talking through friends, and I said, well, why don't we just monkey around and send tracks to each other, and we did, and then we get to do this live gig that, before the pandemic, you would take for, oh, I met this guy in this gig, great guy, and I get his number and we become friends.
Yeah.
And so that happened after all this, and I just get and the difference is, I guess, the process is that there's no rehearsal, and it's a talk through. I want to do it like this. I want to do it kind of like this.
We talked on the phone about what you were going to do.
We talked on the phone. We talked right before we.
By the way, if we
played.
work together, we'll have no rehearsal, pretty much. I mean, there'll be no it'll be phone. But anyway, let's not.
We'll figure that. And
But you're right. Rehearsal is something we're going to all be sacrificing.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting for that kind of gig. I wouldn't necessarily say ours, but I like to do homework. So if you say, I want to do this song, I'll listen to your recording of it, or I'll figure out how I can bring what I bring to it based on what has happened before. So I do that anyway, and you do that as well. So maybe it's more of a percentage of doing that rather than being in the room together. We'll have to figure this out.
But you and him, so going back to him, he said you guys talked on the phone.
Jerry
and you set some of your intentions for the Smalls gig.
Yeah, and the Smalls gig was for musicians, we draw from tunes that we know. We did a very famous Bill Evans, Miles Davis tune called Blue and Green. And he said, and I just know the song from playing it a million years, and he said, we're going to do it like this. So I'm going to play this, and I'm going to play double up form, you're going to play like this as a ballad. And he was very specific about what he wanted, which was really helpful. After all of that, you're playing, and there's that beautiful and scary sometimes moments of we don't know where we're going next, but we're exploring, we're going to find those moments together, and that's when things happen, especially in the world of jazz. So it's a little less, certain parts of it are less scripted, so you just you have to get your feelers out, and
But you're trained to do that anyway.
Right, you're used to it. And in fact, now it's gotten to the point where it's a skill like anything else, and it's gotten to a point where it's like you're kind of excited to jump off the cliff because you know how to jump off the cliff.
So I'm happy to hear all this positivity from you, because one of the things I saw, and I know you were joking, was on your Facebook page, which is was the piano that someone had discarded in New York City. They had just thrown a piano on its side, and you had said, "Oh, it feels like my career," or something.
That's my self-effacing humor, and a lot of people are like, buddy, hang in there. And I did it kind of as a joke.
You were kidding.
I was kind of kidding, and people are like, "Oh, it'll get better, don't worry." And I just thought, isn't this the perfect picture for what we're all experiencing right now? Because it's just like, there goes for some people who are used to sitting in a room and creating stuff, it hasn't affected them as much as us. We're like a different breed of live.
Performing
we feed off of the live
yeah.
energy, so it's tricky. And I think they're just finding different ways to create that feeling that we're talking about, which,
My last question is always, is there anything that the pandemic might help you do? Is there like one thing that you dream of doing, a concerto, an opera, is there an impossible dream even out there?
For me, I think it would be parlaying these skills and really using this to hone the skills to do more films that's something more meaningful. A lot of people have said that the songs that I write, I don't write like jazz bebop tunes per se. They're usually a little more lyrical, and I've always been inspired by like Ennio Morricone and all these great film.
Maybe Michel Legrand?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, because you play his music so beautifully,
sure,
and I'm going to lure you to do it again.
No, and absolutely, and and he scored a bunch of movies, and
almost 300.
Yeah, tons. Yeah, that's where his music
is. That's what he is. Yeah.
And the fact that before music videos, I mean, that's what the relationship between real scoring music and the film, I think, is so important, and I'd love to get more into that, and this sort of just allows me to flex that muscle.
Yeah.
So that's sort of my fantasy with it, is that it'll lead to more, how shall we say, I guess more, to me, meaningful projects that I can utilize that skill, which is getting better by just doing it every day. So that's really it.
I'm going to wrap this up, and then we're going to maybe would you like to make a little
hope-
music together?
Yes, I hope this
Oh my
thing
goodness.
still works though.
So I hope you enjoyed my
have
conversation
one.
with Andy Ezrin. You know, I came to him to sort of ask, what are jazz musicians' feelings? Is it a time of great, doubt and despair? And of course, after this conversation, we see that this is a time for Andy Ezrin of reaffirmation and great creativity, and I'm not surprised. So looking forward to hearing more music from Andy Ezrin. Join me again with whoever else will sit down and chat with me about the state of music. So many years ago, Andy did this arrangement for me of I Remember, and then it just sat there for 10 years or something. And I developed that idea with Rob Mathis and Ted Firth and turned it into Sondheim Sublime. And Andy has the credit for this song on the album, and it's an amazing arrangement. And so here's our version of I Remember.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're rolling. I remember sky, it was blue as ink, or at least I think. I remember sky, I remember snow, soft as feathers, sharp as thumbtacks, coming down like lint, and it made you squint when the wind would blow, and ice like vinyl on the streets, cold as silver, white as sheets, rain like strings and changing things like leaves. I remember leaves, green as spearmint, crisp as paper. I remember trees, bare as coat racks, spread like broken umbrellas, and parks and bridges, ponds and zoos, ruddy faces, muddy shoes, light and noise, and bees and boys and days. I remember days, or at least I try. But as years go by, they're a sort of haze, and the bluest ink isn't really sky. And at times I think I would gladly die for a day of sky. Sky. We got the sky too.
When the wind was blowing when you went to the bridge, that was so cool.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, these moments, because we haven't had them and stuff, they mean so much more, you know, because it's like we don't get to do it. We take it all for granted, and now like when we get to do a little bit of it, it's like it's special. Maybe there's something to that, you know.
Maybe.
I don't know, but yeah, it's felt pretty good for not. We haven't done this song together, you and I, for how many years?
10?
Felt like falling off a log to me.